From the Coin 6 newsroom, this is breaking news.
Welcome everyone to Coin 6 News at 6. I'm Chris Holmstrom.
And I'm Anna Canzano. Oregon Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum is blasting President Donald Trump's executive order, stating that Oregon will use the force of the rule of law to protect and serve all people in the state.
Meanwhile, Portlanders are showing their dissent of the ban by protesting at PDX. That's where we find our Andrew Dimber live. And Andrew, we're hearing that the protesters are now moving to the streets. You can see traffic delayed there.
Hey, Chris and Anna, this is a live look now outside of the Portland International Terminal. The protesters are now blocking traffic. We're a ways away from the terminal, and if you can see, Zach, if you want to pan over here, how backed up traffic is. We've also got a couple of updates for you. Since our last live shot, we told you that a pro-Trump supporter was assaulted. The Port of Portland police have confirmed that, and they also said that they did not fire rubber bullets, but more of crowd control bullets that are similar to a paintball gun. This after pro-Trump supporters clashed with some of the protesters here. Since then, those pro-Trump supporters have left, as have police. Now, when one of those pro-Trump supporters was knocked unconscious and on the ground, that's when police moved in riot gear. They were able to get that man out of the airport, and police went with him. And this is now a live look of what's going on now. No police presence and no pro-Trump supporter presence. Also, I want to make mention that the groups have kind of split up a little bit, so we have less people out here, but still about 100 or 200 people. They're starting to I guess, control traffic here. They're letting some people through. They don't want to let this car through right here because apparently that car tried to inch forward when protesters blocked it, and I guess it agitated the driver. So now they're letting every car but that car through. Again, no police presence here. We do know that there are some police nearby at Portland International Airport, but again, we are about 300 yards away from the terminals, and about every 30 or 45 minutes or so, we've seen the group march throughout the airport, but this is by far the furthest away from the airport that they've gone. As you can see, they are continuing to block traffic. At its height, we saw about 1,000 protesters, and we also saw some elected officials join in those protests earlier today, including Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley, who addressed the crowd. This is what he had to say.
Not only is Lady Liberty crying, the words that she says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." She didn't say, "We're going to slam the door on the poor, the tired, the huddled masses." We are a nation of immigrants, and we must stand together to defend them.
Okay, we are back out here live at Portland International Airport. You can see that the crowds are starting to make their way back towards the terminal after blocking traffic about 200-300 yards away from the terminal. But now everybody is turning around, making their way back to Portland International Airport. These protests have been going on for hours, although the numbers are starting to dwindle here a bit. At its height, we saw about 1,000 people. Maybe there's 200 or 300 at most here. Traffic is starting to move, so we're going to just try to get out of the way here, and we don't want to get hit by a car either. Some of the drivers are, either supportive of some of the protesters here, even getting out of their car, shaking hands, beeping their horn. Others are pretty agitated by being blocked here at the airport. And we're going to continue to follow this as the protesters make their way back downtown. Back towards Portland International Airport. It looks like something here is going on.
Yeah, that is
as drivers tried to make their way through the protesters, it is angering them. So you can see here protesters clashing with some of the people that are just trying to drive through here. Every time one of these cars tries to drive through, they try to block. We're just going to take this live. I mean, you can see what's going on right here between this white truck here and protesters as they're backing up. They're still trying to block the car. And this is what makes it dangerous sometimes, weaving in and out of traffic, especially not in numbers. We've got about 200 people here, but the groups have kind of split up a little bit. You can see there's only a handful of protesters that are trying to block this car as it's making its way forward. This outside of the airport, still technically the airport, but just outside the terminal, starting to make way back towards Portland.
A tough situation there, the signal cutting out. Andrew Dimmer and his photographer, Zach, are clearly mobile, which makes coverage of events like this kind of tough. But, you know, earlier we had said that the protests, the demonstrations there were not disrupting traffic on the way to the airport. Clearly that's not the case now. If you are on the way to PDX this evening, on your way there to travel out of town or to pick up family or loved ones, you might want to give yourself some extra time because of the events that are obviously still unfolding. Yeah, and PDX also tweeting about delays as well. So plan extra time for sure. So, all right. Well, in Washington, D.C., in Boston, New York, Los Angeles, and as you just saw right here in Portland, thousands are pushing back against President Trump's Muslim travel ban. The order keeps refugees out and bans people from 7 predominantly Muslim countries from entering the U.S. for 90 days. But last night, a federal judge issued an emergency stay blocking part of the order. Wendy Gillette has more from New York, where some 10,000 people attended a rally.
In Washington, they rallied at the White House. The protests here in New York began in Battery Park, across the river from the Statue of Liberty. Demonstrators then marched to Customs and Border Patrol offices.
This is the symbol of what it means to be an American.
After the president signed the order banning citizens of 7 predominantly Muslim nations from entering the U.S. for 90 days, some holding valid visas were detained after landing. Federal judges issued rulings to halt parts of the order, and some were released. Neil Zion is from Syria. He has a visa to visit his wife and son in L.A., but was turned away in Istanbul.
We are waiting this moment since 2 years.
New York Senator Chuck Schumer held a news conference with refugees.
It was implemented in a way that created chaos and confusion across the country, and it will only serve to embolden and inspire those around the globe who will do us harm.
President Trump released a statement saying the order is not a ban against Muslims. The White House chief of staff said green card holders from the 7 countries would be allowed into the U.S. going forward, and defended the order.
Immediate steps, pulling the Band-Aid off, is to do further vetting for people traveling in and out of those countries.
Some top Republicans, including Senator John McCain, said the executive order was not vetted enough before being issued. Wendy Gillette for CBS News, New York.
With KOIN 6 News, as we dig into the effects of President Trump's latest executive actions and their impacts here in the Pacific Northwest. Between newscasts, you can always track updates at KOIN.com. And at today's protest, you saw Senator Jeff Merkley address the crowd there at PDX, and Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler also tried addressing the crowd. Yeah, but surely after thanking everyone for coming, he was drowned out by people who aren't happy with his latest actions in the city. Take a listen.
And as your mayor, I'm going to work with our federal delegation, I'm going to work with our state officials, with our county officials and others to figure out how to... Fire Mike Marshman! Fire Mike Marshman! Fire Mike Marshman!
He's here in the middle of a street that's blocking traffic at a protest that's unpermitted, despite the fact that over the last week and a half, he has had the Portland police riot cops violently attack people for participating in unpermitted marches in the streets of Portland.
In a sense, yes, because he stated that there was a crackdown on protests, but then he shows up at a protest. And I applaud him for showing up, but I feel like an apology is needed if he can't play both sides.
We have reached out to the mayor's office with these concerns. We have not yet heard back.
And have you been out to the protest around Portland? Let us know what you think about how the city is handling the demonstrations. Just send a message to reportit@KOIN.com, or you can click on the Report It tab on our KOIN 6 News app.